It's Jack Kenny. I'm the showrunner of Warehouse 13.
Talk about, I know it's been on the internet a few times. I think the rumor's kind of been discounted, but about a spin-off around H.G. Wells.
No, it's not. I didn't mean to discount it. We're in the works of it. Bob Goodman and I are writing a script. We sold an idea to Sci-Fi. They're really interested, but I'm reluctant to talk about too many details because at this stage the details change so many times. I tell you, it takes place in Paris in 1905, and all of a sudden it's taking place in Boston in 1870. You know, it all changes, and the characters will change. I mean, it's going to be about H.G. Wells and her, the same character that we developed last season, and just her exploits. Is going to have a sort of a mix of warehouse and Sherlock Holmesian type thing. She's not just going to be a warehouse agent. We're working on concept now that brings her more into a wider realm of things. Because we don't want to do Warehouse 12. We don't want to do another warehouse series because Warehouse 13 has that covered. So we're just going to go in that direction and see what we can land on. We got a bunch of great ideas. I think it'll be fun. Anybody else? Nothing.
What about Micah? I understand the agents are kind of reluctant to have her back at the side booth.
Oh no, they signed off on her last week on the Monday night's episode. They signed off on her coming back. Farhan Tahir was on, another terrific actor. Sorry? No, I heard a question behind me. I heard Alphys, really? I don't know anything about Alphys. No, Joe's back. I mean, we could have stretched it out and messed around with how she comes. Is she coming back? But of course she's coming back. I mean, there was all this panic at the beginning of the season. I won't watch the show anymore if Micah's not back. At the end of the first season, we killed Artie, and then he came back. And it's like I just want the fans. Don't panic. It's gonna. Oh, thank you so much. It's gonna be fine. So Micah's just back in. I thought there was a really nice landing for her back in where she could really examine her feelings about coming back to the warehouse and working with Pete again. And now I think we're back on the stories now because that's where the show lives, is hunting down stuff. And so next week is a really fun. Next week's B story is fantastic. It's just Pete and Micah, and it's really fun. And Aaron, it's Pete, Micah, and Steve on the story in the warehouse. It's sort of a bottle show inside the warehouse. It's really fun. And Artie's off on a story with Lindsay Wagner and Renee Auberginois with Claudia. So it's a really fun one Monday night.
What research materials do you use to find your artifacts?
I send money to Wikipedia every week. I don't know how I lived without Wikipedia before this. Honestly, we rarely start with an artifact. We always start with the story. What are the characters going through? What do they need to experience? What is the interesting thing that happens? And then we go back and find the artifact. We do a story where a bride gets affected on her wedding day. What's a fun thing that could happen there? And it's what if the wedding party goes crazy and becomes devoted to her or zombie-esque or something? And then we go back and find an artifact that would make them behave that way. So it's finding the story first and then finding out what the artifact is that causes it. And that's where we come into research. And I've always been fascinated by history, so I love digging back and finding stuff. Our Christmas episode is based on the story that was the basis for It's a Wonderful Life. But it's based on that short story, and at the center of that short story there's actually an artifact. So it's just kind of a fun, I just love digging into the history of things and getting underneath stories,
Do you ever do anything that's more recent? Like, it's not always something so far
Well, sometimes we do. I mean, we've done like the Studio 54 Disco Ball, and we do things that are more recent sometimes, and we've got we've been trying to figure out a way to work the moon rock. It's in the main. They used to be in the main titles. Trying to work that into a story. I guess it's just more fun to get the mythology of an artifact of history when you get into more current times. Like it's easier to poke holes in the Studio 54 Disco Ball artifact because everybody knows Studio 54 and what it was, but nobody knows who Redicus was or how his compass worked, so we can make more stuff up. And I mean, we've already bent history so much by making H.G. Wells a woman. I mean, what else could we do? And it's funny because we all think of her as a woman now. I mean, when we talk about H.G. Wells, we talk about her stories. It's kind of bizarre that we don't really think about the man anymore.
Are you guys thinking about doing any other crossovers, the other shows like Eureka?
It's interesting because Eureka and our universe seem to cross over really well because our universes both exist in this kind of weird world of kookiness. It's harder with a show like Haven, which is so much more grounded in reality. Alphas is very much procedural, and so it's a little tougher. Although I think Lindsay Wagner is playing Dr. Vanessa Calder on an episode of Alphas. My understanding is she's coming on to Alphas, but she's not playing the warehouse doctor. She's playing a CDC doctor. So she's still playing Dr. Vanessa Calder, but only in her role as a CDC doctor.
Whose decision is that when it becomes a showrunner to the show? It's Sci-Fi.
I mean, they suggest things to us. Like they came to us first season and said, we really want to cross over you and Eureka. And to us, it felt like a no-brainer, Claudia and Fargo, because they are the two sort of youthful, fun elements of both of those shows. So that would be the fun of throwing them together in various situations. But the network says we'd love to do a crossover, and then they leave it at our court as to how to do it and what we want, what characters to do with this.
The new Warehouse 13 agent has come out as being gay, and I'm wondering if you guys can get more in depth into that story, or if that's kind of where it's going to end.
Well, for now, that's where it's going to end because, as I say, our characters don't. It's not like we have a lot of time for relationships. Nobody. I mean, we tried that last year, and I think ultimately people were a little disappointed in the Pete and Kelly relationship because how do we surface it? Have them go out on a date in a movie, and Kelly comes in touch with an artifact, and how many times can you do that?
Exactly.
So it became difficult to actually do relationship stories on our show. Pete, it comes up the fact that he's gay plays into a couple of moments here and there, but really that's about it. And next season, maybe he'll have a B story runner where somebody he meets, I feel like he strikes me as a character who's had a painful past, a broken relationship that didn't end well. Maybe his parents were not as accepting of him when he came out, something like that. That's how I'd want to investigate the fact that he's gay. Is what was it like for him to come out? In an episode further down the line, we'll learn a little bit more about him, about his sister, and some other things about why he chose the life he chose. So to me, that's more interesting about the character is who is he and why is he who he is, not necessarily who he sleeps with.
That'll always be Claudia's most awkward moment, though.
What?
Love that. When he said, I'm gay, she's
there's another one coming up.
Oh, God.
Aside from Lindsay Wagner, are there any other guests?
Oh, we got tons of them. Renee Aubergenois, who's also on Monday night. That's a really fun episode with Saul, Renee, and Lindsay. It's a really great dynamic. 3 amazing actors, and Claudia's on that story too. Jerry Ryan's joining us for an episode. Steve Yeun from Walking Dead is going to be on our Fargo episode. We've got, as you know, Kate Mulgrew is coming onto the show to do an arc. She's playing a regent. She doesn't join us until the end of August, but she's with us for 4 episodes. Sasha Royce makes his first appearance on Monday night. He's kind of mysterious until near the end. Alessandra Torresani's coming on to do an episode from Caprica. Who else do we have? I think it's all I can think of right now. Those are the big ones. Those are our big ones. Yeah, Jerry Ryan it's such a fun episode. I think it's a week from Monday, and she's the bride who's getting married, and it's really fun.
So are you surprised at how well the show's doing? I mean, that's probably a dumb question, but I mean, it's...
Honestly, I don't. I try not to read reviews. They send me the reviews, but if you read the good ones, you have to believe the bad ones. If you believe one, you have to believe... So I never... I mean, it's nice to hear that we're doing well. I don't really care about numbers because I can't do anything about them.
Right.
It's how I feel about watching dailies. I don't watch dailies because it's already been shot.
Right.
So I feel like
really good point.
it's just going to frustrate me, or I'll either like it or I'll hate it. But either way, it's done. It's finished. So I'm glad we're doing well because what that means is we're doing it right.
Right.
If the audience is enjoying it, then we're doing it right, and it'll make our work easier to do because we know we're on the right track. First year of a show is always a nightmare because you don't know what they like, you don't know what works. It hasn't gone on the air yet. I have to get out of here. And So you never really know in the first season what's clicking, what's not clicking, what are the episodes that work. Now we kind of know. We know our sweet spot, and the fun thing about this show is it seems like we can do almost any style of episode.
Right.
We've got a couple of very heavy episodes coming up, and we've got a couple of big, broad episodes coming up, and they both feel right. And that's what I think both the writing staff and I think everybody on the show finds fun about doing the show. Every week it's a different story. We shoot a movie every week, and it's always different. It's really great.
How far ahead do you have it mapped out? Do you have like a couple years? Or
it's I got about the next 3 minutes. I haven't thought about I know what the first episode next year is because I know the corner we painted ourselves into this year, so I know how we paint ourselves out next year. Beyond that, I got nothing.